the 42nd President of the United States.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Congressman, Assemblywoman Lombardo. Thank you for your peppy talk. I love that. Mayor Ryan, thank you. You'll have to forgive me for being a little hoarse. This is the 65th campaign event I've done in this season, and I've been in West Virginia and Kentucky today, which is sort of town home country to me, and I can tell you I was campaigning for the governor of West Virginia in the Senate seat and for the Attorney General of Kentucky in the Senate seat, and they're spending a fortune down there against them with these sort of smear ads run by these committees with anonymous contributors. And those are my people, you know, I grew up like that, and I see that, and they think they can play them. But I want to start with that. The Republican Supreme Court, about a year ago, reversed 110 years of constitutional law and said for the first time that a corporation is no longer a creation of the state, but a citizen, just like an individual, and entitled to all the same constitutional rights. And they can contribute unlimited amounts of money to these phony name committees and never have to disclose their names. And I said, you know, where I came from and the way I was raised, the only time you won't come out in the sunlight is when you're ashamed of what you're doing. And they know that if we knew all these voters they're trying to play and fear and tune up, if they really knew where all this money was coming from, they would get it right away. Maurice Hinchey has done a great job for this district. In a tough economic time, he got you thousands of jobs you wouldn't have had. He was ahead of the national movement trying to put us back in the lead in the race for a clean energy future and solar and wind and other things. And the only reason we're here tonight is that there is an understandable national mood of anxiety and apprehension and confusion and anger. And as you heard Donna say earlier, they are banking on the fact that people that voted with the Democrats in 2006 and for the president in 2008 will be disappointed that everything's not coming up roses everywhere and stay home, especially young people. So thank you, students, for being here. I want to say they and Fox News and their anonymous committees and their fabulous disinformation campaign have whipped those poor Republicans up into a white heat. Honest to God, half of them need psychiatry. Not because they're crazy, but because nobody can be that angry that long and it'd be healthy for you. So they're dying to get to the polls to vote against all of it. And when I started this election, I want to be honest with you. First, I have to bring you greetings from your former senator and our Secretary of State. Today is our 35th wedding anniversary. We had to celebrate it last night because she left this morning to go to Bosnia. As one of the editorials said today, she was going to Bosnia and Kosovo, where we ended 2 slaughters in 95 and 98 to finish the family project. And she can't do politics. So when I started, I thought, well, I have to get out and do some events for people who supported her because she can't campaign. She and the Secretary of Defense cannot participate in elected politics, and there would be nobody to honor those who had stood up for her. This is a way bigger deal for me now. Even though I spend most of my life working on my foundation work, and I do work in America and around the world, I spend a lot of my time. I spend a lot of time in places like Haiti and Southern Africa and Latin America and Southeast Asia where people would kill to get in this failing economy of ours. But I still work in America, and I still take about an hour a day to study this economy, to figure out what should we do now? How are we going to manage these challenges? And, I have to tell you, I know I'm a Democrat and you can discount that, but I did try hard to beat President Obama in the primary, if you remember. And my opinion is that he and the Congress have done a considerably better job than they have gotten credit for. And I would like to... Now, it's hard to get credit if you're a Democrat and things are still bad because people hire us to fix things. But consider this. A lot of you probably are following the baseball finals now. We're moving up to the World Series. And you look at the games, and there can be unbelievable, we could have unbelievable conversations in this crowd from men and women alike about the details of all these recent baseball games. We could have unbelievable conversations about what happened in the pro football games yesterday. A lot of surprising games. Now, when we really care about something like football that's important, we care about the facts. But when something really doesn't matter to us, like the economy and our whole political future, we want to go on emotion. That's what the Republicans are banking on. They're trying to make this a referendum rooted in anger and apathy and amnesia, saying if things aren't perfect, vote them out. We have to remind people this is a choice, and it is a very big choice. So tonight, I don't want to give quite a conventional political speech. I want to tell you what I want you to tell people who aren't here. You're for him or you wouldn't be here. But I want to tell you what you need to tell people who aren't here about why they should vote. And I want to tell you look, let me just tell you this. I don't know what they're shouting, but compared to all those Republicans and what they're saying, there's only one person in America that's balanced four budgets, run four surpluses. They never care about the deficit except when there's a Democratic president and they think they've got something. The settlers that when I left office, we had the smallest federal government since 1960 when Dwight Eisenhower was president. We had 16,000 fewer pages in the Federal Registry of Regulations. So I don't need any lectures or shouting. You need to listen to me. This is what I think matters. At least Maurice talked about what matters. The only thing that really matters now is what do we do now? And who's more likely to do it? What should we do? Who's more likely to do it? Now, here are the facts. Let's look at the facts, like we were football coaches looking at the game film. Their argument is we dug a big old hole for America for 8 years. Not just from September 2008 when the financial crisis started, and ran till July 1, but a big hole for 8 years before that financial crisis ever hit. And remember this, before the financial crisis hit, when the Republicans were in total control of the government, we only had 2.5 million new jobs, as compared with 22.7 million when I was president, 10 times as many. When I took office in the previous 12 years, the debt of the country had gone up fourfold from $1 to $4 trillion. So I set about trying to undo it. We reversed trickle-down economics in the 93 budget. By 96, we had a balanced budget, 4 surpluses, paid $600 billion on the debt. But the most important thing is, if they had just stayed with my budget, we would be out of debt by 2015 for the first time since 1832. But no. What did they do? This is really important to set up what I want to talk about. First thing they did was repeal arithmetic. And what do I mean by that? We put in a rule called, it's got a crazy acronym like everything in Washington does, called PAYGO. It means pay as you go. What it means is, unless there is a recession when the economy is shrinking, if you want a new program, you got to pay for it by cutting an old program or raising the money. And if you're not brave enough to raise the money or cut something else, you can't have the program. It wasn't rocket science, it was arithmetic. But it helped us to keep interest rates down, investment up, private sector jobs growing. And the Republicans are always for private sector jobs. We had the highest rate of private sector job growth in 70 years. The highest percentage of the jobs, over 92% of them. Median income rose to its highest level ever. In my second term, the bottom 20% of working families' incomes increased in percentage terms, slightly more than the top 20%, for the first time since the early 70s. 1971 was the last time that happened, and it hadn't happened since. We were moving in the right direction. They reversed all that, went back to what they were doing before I got in, and you got 2.5 million jobs and double the debt. Poverty increased. Median income was $2,000 lower than it was the day I left office before the meltdown. Then after the meltdown, the then president, President Bush, did what he had to do. He tried to stop a total collapse. But the deficit was $1.2 trillion on the day, a year, on the day President Obama took the oath of office. So let's just have a little reality check here. And then this collapse, the financial collapse, they act like it stopped, or it should have, on January 21st, just because he took the oath of office. It didn't even start till September. It didn't bottom out till the end of June. Okay, so let's look at that. So, again, let's look at the game films. Since that time, we have recovered 70% of the GDP we lost. You say that's not too good, but Germany's recovered 60%, Japan 50%, the United Kingdom 30%. I'm not telling you that's not a hallelujah moment. It just says this is hard and deep and long, and we're doing better than the competition. The problem is that all the jobs are in that last 30%, and when we start growing again. So the only thing that really matters to you and your children and the future is what are we going to do now? How are we going to get the jobs? How are we going to finance the jobs? How are we going to train and educate people to do the jobs? And what are we going to do about the long-term debt? Because it's not healthy to borrow all this money from China and not be able to enforce your trade laws, because the bankers are the same people that are doing the unfair trade. That's what matters. And so here's what I think. I spent an hour a day studying this.